Let's get into all of this right now with a whole lot more, including the lady who's in the man cave because she's travelling the country right now about cost of living. Senator Jane Hume, lovely to see you.
Good to be with you.
Former Senator and Labor legend, our dear friend Graham Richardson, he joins us as well. And, well, future Senator, if she'd like to. There is a spot open, of course. None other than the wonderful Erin Molan. Lovely to see you, and thank you for keeping the picture of the Holy One behind you. Now, there's a conversation about whether we should raise the dole or not. There was a conversation here between the Prime Minister and Andrew Clennell about this issue because, remember, Labor tried to, well, not be very subtle that they were going to raise the dole, but of course now they're not going to.
Is Jobseeker and single parent payments, could we see possible increases there given the cost of living crisis?
A Labor government will always look for ways in which we can provide assistance to those in need. We'll do so, of course, though, in a context. The context here is we don't want to add to any inflationary pressure.
That's waffle words for no. David Pocock wants it to change, and he got played like a fiddle by the Labor Party, who, in exchange for giving unions more power, set up an inquiry that they later ignored.
This is a payment that should mean that people are able to look at their options, apply for jobs, continue to live above the poverty line while they try and get back into the workforce. If we value this as a country, if we believe that we should have a safety net that leaves no one behind, then we need to be raising the rate of Jobseeker and youth allowance.
Jane, the truth about the dole is that it hasn't moved for a long time. It moves every now and then in relation to inflation, but it hasn't really moved as a big number, and you don't want it to be a forever income, but it obviously has to be enough for people to pay their way through. You're doing cost of living right now, but you're also the Shadow Finance Minister, so you know there's a big consequence if we did raise the dole, but surely the argument for it is getting clearer and clearer, isn't it?
Well, the thing is with Jobseeker, Paul, is that it's never supposed to be a wage subsidy. It's not supposed to be a salary. It is supposed to be a safety net. And there is hardly a country in the world that has a more generous safety net system than Australia. You tend not to just get Jobseeker, you tend to get, rental assistance, parenting payments, carers payments, all those sorts of things on top of it as well. So it rarely stands alone. And the most important thing, I think, is that every dollar that a government pays out is a dollar that somebody else has earned. And from a finance minister's perspective, that's something that we've got to keep front of mind whenever we make a decision about something like raising the rate of Jobseeker. I think that the real big issue here, of course, is you're right, David Pocock got totally played by the Labor Party. He made a deal in order to get those industrial relations reforms through. Labor said, yes, we're going to do this Economic Inclusion Committee. They put Jenny Macklin in charge. She's probably the preeminent voice in Australia on social security. They had 13 other people on that committee. I'm not entirely sure whether they're paid or not. We'll find that out another time. And of course, then they buried this report at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, just threw it out there the moment that the ink was already drying on the first edition of tomorrow's newspapers, which was a little bit cheeky, without even briefing David Pocock, who was the one that initiated this report. $34 billion worth of recommendations in there. I can see why Jim Chalmers is not paying attention to that, but he certainly does have to do something about the cost of living. We know it's the number one issue right now. What is it that he can do that isn't going to raise inflation further? And that's what the committee is looking at.